Hello. Over the past month or so, a faction of Anonymous, in conjunction with a number of other parties, including investigative journalists and activists of various sorts, have been working on something we call Operation Metal Gear. This operation is pursuant to some things we've discovered and which were already partly known regarding the development and deployment of certain kinds of technologies and methodologies that are used altogether in order to provide a much more advanced form of signals intelligence research than was previously available. This investigation grew out of our ongoing research into the emails and other information that we took from H.B. Gary in February after they made the mistake of bragging about how they allegedly identified our leaders, our leaders, including our president and council and many of our shareholders and contractors, all of whom are now in Guantanamo. One of the emails that we looked at more recently, about a month ago, that we finally got around to getting to, remember that there are 70,000 emails we took from H.B. Gary alone during that investigation. We came upon this email and learned that H.B. Gary CEO Aaron Barr, who's kind of been the culprit in a lot of these activities, was asked to come to a meeting at Booz Allen Hamilton's office in Virginia. Booz Allen Hamilton is one of the largest intelligence and military contractors in the United States, has offices in Virginia and Baku, Azerbaijan, which is important for reasons that you'll learn if you take some time to look into our stuff we've uncovered. The meeting that he was brought in to carry on with them was pursuant to a conversation that Aaron Barr had held with Booz Allen Hamilton Vice President William Wansley via email and phone. They were discussing the methodology by which Aaron Barr and H.B. Gary Federal had sought to identify participants in Anonymous and disrupt the operations of WikiLeaks. Booz Allen Hamilton clearly had an interest in these kind of methodologies. And what we learned going forward was that Booz Allen Hamilton is definitely not alone in seeking out that ability. Long story short, I say that, but it's not going to be a short story anyway, sorry. About 24 companies in the U.S., most of them small companies formed in the last 10 years, have been involved in creating, developing, and and selling or renting the ability to conduct what's called persona management. Persona management is a nice way of referring to fake armies of virtual people, such as the ones that the Air Force asked for a number of years ago, by which a single airman could control 50 different fake personas on Facebook and other social networking apparatus, and with very little human input, carry on and maintain conversations and relationships with other real people for purposes unknown. Obviously, that's quite a capability to have. It allows you a lot of options in terms of manipulating public opinion, gleaning information about those people you're talking to, and God knows what else. Tied to that methodology is something called attribution, which is the ability to identify someone who doesn't want to be identified, particularly on the internet. And tied to that is data collection and data modeling of the very advanced sort that's carried on by companies like Palantir, which itself acknowledges that it does those kind of things for the U.S. government. Those companies and others like them, are contracted to produce a small part of what in the end is used in a more comprehensive fashion by governments, particularly the U.S. government, for various ends. Again, one of the problems with that is these firms are oftentimes allowed to keep what they produce. And we know for a fact, based on our investigation into H.B. Gary, that this methodology has been used, or at least has been planned to be used, against WikiLeaks and against opponents of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, which, thanks to an introduction by the Justice Department, was able to get involved with H.B. Gary and Palantir and Belrico and other firms, collectively called Team Themis, in order to deploy that same technology methodology combination against its enemies. And that whole thing has sort of been reported now, and you can read about that in the aftermath of what's been discovered in articles such as the one by Steve Ragan for Tech Herald. If you Google Ragan, Cubic, or I'm sorry, Ragan and Metal Gear. Metal Gear being the name that we've applied to this sort of combination software methodology, because it didn't really have a comprehensive name otherwise. And there's some links here at the bottom of this video that'll give you more general information on this. So we've been looking into this for a month now, and we've come to realize that it involves, in addition to these 24 companies, a firm, sort of a venture capital firm that was established by the CIA and is linked to the CIA very heavily. And this is one of those things that's not a secret, it's just not well known. This firm is called In-Q-Tel. It's provided capital to Palantir, for instance, any number of firms that the intelligence community in the U.S. thinks will produce something of value to them. Oftentimes the things that are of value to a security apparatus are dangerous for everyone else. And we've seen that over and over again in the past few decades especially. And it's sort of been brought home, I think, in the past few weeks as we see what H.B. Gary and other companies were up to. So our working knowledge on this is that there are a great number of people who are more than happy to produce, in part or in whole, this Metal Gear apparatus, and that they're allowed to keep them and use them against their own targets. Whoever comes forward with a $1 million contract and asks them to look into information on their opponents will readily find people who are more than happy to give them that ability for the right price. More concerning, perhaps, is the way in which this can be used and misused by the United States and other governments. And again, we have smoking guns in terms of how it's been misused. And you can read more about that in the articles that you'll come across as if you join us in pursuing this. So, relevant to that, I am asking anyone who's interested in maintaining internet privacy, in maintaining some semblance of transparent government and of the rule of law, to assist us in looking into this this sort of activity. Look into those who are developing it, look into those who are using it or misusing it, and help us to expose them to the media such that they might be investigated further, or perhaps be investigated by the ongoing the congressional committee that is supposed to be looking into Team Themis, H.B. Gary and all that. Incidentally, the problem with that investigation is that the Republican on that investigative committee doesn't think they should be investigating it at all, because he thinks it's the Department of Justice's job to do this. The problem, of course, is Justice Department was the one that made the introduction in the first place by which this conspiracy could be carried out. So, as confusing as the stream of words I just threw at you over the past 8 minutes might be, if you look at the links below, you'll get a much better feel for what we're looking into and why it concerns us. And why it concerns not only us, but a great number of people of different ideologies, different political inclinations, who themselves, have a personal or patriotic interest in preventing, to some extent, the development and misuse of these kinds of capabilities by governments and private parties. So what I'm asking you to do is to look at the information links below, read the articles, read our summary, and think about joining us by downloading an IRC client and coming to ircanonops.ru, channel Operation Metal Gear, Op Metal Gear. That's #OPMETALGEAR. Alternatively, or in conjunction with that, you can also use an IRC client to come to irc.freenode.net and join us at #ProjectPM or #Op Metal Gear on that server. Once there, you'll be briefed on what we've covered so far. You'll be provided with more documents, some of which are, again, pasted below, or links below. And you'll be equipped to assist us in this investigation, which, as I've said, should be important to you, whether or not it is. Yeah, so again, this is something that a number of people have been looking into, but frankly, we should have more help in this. We should have more people who are concerned for their own privacy, for the privacy of others, and concerned about the way this technology and methodology can be used to manipulate public opinion, and otherwise give the states an upper hand, more of an upper hand, against its own populations. So again, come to those IRC networks or email me at bariticus@gmail.com. That's BARRITICUS@gmail.com, also written below. Thank you for listening to my, to what I hope is only partial rambling. Again, this is very important to a lot of us for, I think, the right reasons. Thank you.